announcing Cynthia Davis as the representative for the Constitution Party for the state of Missouri's lieutenant governor position.
Let me tell you folks, part of why I needed to get out of the Republican Party is because I've been close enough to see the ugly underbelly of it. And they've been selling their souls for years. And we don't sell our souls, not here. There's nothing we can be offered that'd be worth trading away our principles. And the other two parties represent money and power. And money and power will help you get elected, that's true, but we're doing things that are bigger and better than money and power. So I want to tell you, I'd rather be in Idaho with 70 like-minded constitutional people who get it than with millions of Republicans who are all about who's going to be the highest donor, who's going to be the highest bidder. Thank you. Now, I want to tell you the story of the emperor's new clothes, because that's going to define what needs to happen to America. And I know many of you have heard this. It's actually a pretty short story, and you can Google it and read the whole thing in about 5 minutes without the illustration. With the illustration, look at the pictures. They're good. Here's what's going on, though. If you remember, the emperor wanted to look really fancy, and he called in these very expensive tailors, and they said, if you can't see his clothes or the fabric, you must be stupid and incapable of serving in office. So they played this charade where they all blocked each other, and everybody said, oh yeah, you do look very nice. And everybody knew that he didn't look nice, he was naked. And what it took was when he went on parade through the town, and a little boy said the emperor is naked, and called it what it was. And once he stood up and said that, everyone else acknowledged he is naked. And he was very embarrassed, and the story proved a major point that we're proving. The Republican and Democrat parties are empty and hollow and getting us the wrong direction. It's like, do you want to be in a fancy car going the wrong direction, or do you want to be in a modest car going the right direction? I'll take the car getting me where I need to go, because the purpose is my destination anyway. You know, when I left the Republican Party, a lot of people got their feelings hurt. And I got some unkind, uncharitable email messages, which were really quite unchristlike, some of them. One of them called me a turncoat. One of them accused me of jumping the fence. I went to a Concerned Women for America event, and a woman told me, if people like you keep leaving the Republican Party, we're never going to get it changed. I'm telling you, there's a lot of hurt feelings, because it is a repudiation of the Republican Party when somebody says that's not going to work. I believe the best time we would have had for ever correcting it would have been back when Ronald Reagan was president. And we've only gotten worse since. When I became a state legislator, our state budget was $18 billion a year. When I left 8 years later, it was up to $23 billion with a Republican majority. How does that happen, folks? We passed laws that said you can't be, the Republican Party passed laws that said people cannot be friends on Facebook if they're teachers with students. The Republican Party passed laws that said that you can't, it encroached on our freedom of speech. It said you can't now if you're on the internet and you say things that scare people or make them feel afraid, that's now a crime. And they passed laws that really were way beyond. Now what they just did yesterday, they had a special session, and they are going to do a redistribution of wealth for people who do science experiments. How good is that? Now, tomorrow night, I'm going to be speaking at a very elegant dinner. That there is a group of people, this should give all of you hope. You're not the only ones who care about the Constitution. There are plenty of other people who do in this country. But there's an organization called the Young Conservatives of America, and they realized that Missouri, with its supermajority of Republicans running it now, is taking the train right off the tracks. So they've gone through a painstaking effort of analyzing all the bills and matching them up on whether they're constitutional or not. And they discovered 41% of all the bills passing out of the House to the governor's desk are constitutional and the rest are not. And that's with a Republican-held majority. And with all the unhappiness they've had, they started evaluating, and this was a year ago, before I knew anybody ever cared. You see, people like us don't ever get awards. We don't get plaques. We don't get big recognition, because when you love the Constitution, there's no natural lobbyist group to give you money. Okay, so what we've done, they analyzed all the bills, and when they got done, they looked at it, and last year they gave me an award for being the most constitutional legislator in the state of Missouri. So what's special is anybody can win it. All you have to do is vote right. It's easy. All the other groups, and I'm sure Virgil will tell you, having been in office for a while, that the other organizations give you awards based on how well you schmooze and shake hands and how good your hair looks and how many people you know. And if most of the bills that get passed that funnel money to the special interest groups, all the special interest groups that are getting money will give you a plaque if it's a good deal for them. That's how that works. So anyway, tomorrow night I'm going to this Locke and Smith Award to present my, they give you a great big granite plaque. It's really cool. And what's cute about it is I didn't even know anybody was watching when they were scoring. There was a lot of anger among the Republican Party people, particularly, where they were like, how dare you not give it to my favorite legislator? He's such a nice guy. And he told me he was conservative. He couldn't possibly not get the award. But this is why we need to think, because actions speak louder than words. It doesn't matter what you say. It matters what you do. You can say anything and make yourself look good, but you're not dangerous just talking. You are dangerous when you're sitting at your desk with the voting buttons right in front of you. And if you push a red or a green, that will define my safety and my liberty. So I want to leave with there's one of my friends on Facebook who has this picture on her Facebook. I want to just leave you with these thoughts, because these are from old campaigns, but I brought enough for everybody to have one if you'd like. But what inspired me about Betsy Ross is she did what she could do. And everyone in this room can do something. And she could sew. And using her gifts and talents and contributing what she could, how she could, when she could, she became the woman who made our first flag. And then, this is my other card. This is Dolly Madison. Now, during the War of 1812, it was 1814, and they didn't have cell phones back then. She was left in the White House wondering what to do. There were the military all over, not knowing. What are we going to, where is her husband? But left to herself and her own conscience, she grabbed the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and an irreplaceable portrait of George Washington, slashed it off the frame, rolled up the canvas, put it in the cart, and within hours the White House was burned to the ground. And in that same spirit, we are all being asked to save our nation's gems. We have gems right now, folks, and we do not want them being burned to the ground, and we must save them. So I want to give you a thought about why we're going to win in Missouri, because this is very special. Missouri is a very freedom-loving state, and I have to tell you, I read Chuck Baldwin's blog, his website, on why he chose to move to Montana. And he said that really Chicago had ruined Illinois, and Kansas City and St. Louis had ruined Missouri, and went through a whole litany of the thought process of how he did that. And I want Chuck Baldwin to call me the day after the election in November 7th, and tell me he underestimated Missouri. This is the most winnable we've had it, folks, for a long time, and I'll tell you why. I am likely going to be the only pro-life candidate on the ballot. And that's very special because we're going to bring up issues and we're going to talk about what really counts and what matters. And I want you to be inspired with what's on the front of my Dolly Madison card because I put the fourth verse of the Star-Spangled Banner. And some of you may know it, but for those of you who don't, you need to have it in a card. And I also needed to cover up her bust line because it was immodest. Oh, thus be it ever when freemen shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just. And this is our motto, in God is our trust. Thank you.
And our House winner is, and I am thankful this person is in attendance, is Representative Cynthia Davis.
In recognition of your outstanding adherence to the principles of the Constitution during the 2010 legislative session, we present to Representative Cynthia Davis the Locke and Smith Award.
Wow, this is quite astounding. I am really surprised. And I will say why. Because people like us don't normally win awards. You know, when we understand the constitutional principles and vote accordingly to what made this a great nation, we're usually not very popular. The people who win these kind of awards in general are usually people who give money to special interest groups. And they get a lot of pat on the backs. And after 8 years of serving in the legislature, I have never received anything like this. And it is a huge honor. I'm tremendously humbled. I am leaving, you know, probably some of you might know, but not without a few thoughts. One thing is, I leave after 8 years with a clean conscience. And even though, as I'm leaving, I finally get an award, which is stunning, I remember just a few weeks ago, we went to Jefferson City and heard our former Speaker of the House tell us never to compromise our values, never give away our integrity or let the power go to our head. And I have to say, I never let that happen. And it meant I could sleep good at night. And it meant that I felt good about my votes. And I'll just share, on my way to Jefferson City for the last time to clean out my office, I was singing the Rhinestone Cowboy. And you know, this is so true. I've been walking these streets along, singing the same old song. I know every crack in these dirty sidewalks of Broadway or the Capitol, where profit's the name of the game and nice guys get washed away like the snow in the rain. And it is so true that when you do the right thing in Jefferson City or any level of government, it's not that popular. And I love your story about the city council, because that's where I started when I was on the O'Fallon Board of Aldermen, and I saw them doing things that were outside of what I knew to be right. And it's been my guiding principle, but I just want to say thank you. Stay with me. I am encouraged. I am so encouraged that you're here, because there is hope for this country as long as there are people serving as a reminder. And as long as we remember the principles that made us a great country, we can bring the country back. Thank you.